Hey everybody, welcome to Lovecraft and Back. I am one of your hosts, Michael, and our other host is...
The one, the only Aaron.
Come on, the one and only Aaron. And we are here with our first official episode of Lovecraft and Back. And today we will be celebrating Halloween. So happy Halloween to everybody. And on today's episode, we will be breaking down the very first episode of Lovecraft Country. Like, I'm super excited because with this podcast beginning basically at the end of the series, this is an opportunity for us to actually get really deep into the series and, you know, take our time with it, because we've watched it, and I can tell you now, I've watched episode 3 times. I just watched it last night, but we've watched the whole season. We're in the process of rewatching. We're in the process of reading the books. And this is a part where we can actually take our time and digest each individual episodes. And this is an opportunity for people who have watched the show to come along and listen to us. And also for people who are just now starting the show and follow along with our episodes, because like I said, we're just taking our time. We're going to go through the whole series. We're also going to go through the book, and hey, we're here. Aaron, how are you feeling today?
Oh, I am feeling ecstatic. I am so excited because, like, this episode, we're going to get deeper into it, but like this was a perfect setup for such a great series. I'm ready to dive in. Like, it just you have all of these great, you know, plot points that are set up in such, you know, short time, and it's like a film in itself. You know, it's kudos to the whole team. You know, you guys did so amazing with this episode.
Like, the first episode, I was blown away, and I just could not believe what I was watching, and then how it ended. I was like, okay, I want more. Well, since me and Aaron are ready to dive into this, let's go ahead and give you a summary of what episode 1 is, entitled Sundown Towns. So the summary is: Atrocitus Freeman meets up with his friend Latia and his uncle George to embark on a road trip across 1950s Jim Crow America in search of his missing father. So, all right.
Interesting.
The opening scene is a glimpse, I think, for me, was a glimpse into the Lovecraft universe, because we had all these monsters and everything just going everywhere. But it was just kind of cool to see, to also find out that this was his dream. And that's our main character, Atrocitus Freeman. You see him fighting his way through the trenches of this world that we're seeing. And you see all these different creatures. And then we hear this voice tell us, this is a story of a boy and his dreams. And I'm like, is he dreaming? How was you feeling when you saw this first scene, Aaron?
I was very intrigued because, like, you know, seeing the promos and kind of just, you know, based off of the summary, you know, you are expecting this very down-to-earth, grounded kind of, you know, opening. And we do get that, but the very first scene being the, you know, basically, like you said, the Lovecraft universe, you know, that just, it immersed you into this huge, you know, space battle, and you see all of these monsters that came straight from the Lovecraft, you know, stories, and you have this, you know, the amazing scene of, I'll go ahead and say it, of the amazing scene of our one and only Jackie Robinson.
Oh man, him saving them, that was amazing. Like, because since we're about to go ahead and get into that, seeing Jackie Robinson save this young black man from this horrendous monster that Lovecraft has created, which I think we all know, I think it was Cthulhu, right? Correct? Mm-hmm. And the fact that you see this known legend, this known African-American baseball player save this guy. And this princess, who I have to get into, Miss Jamie Chung, like coming down this saucer, all pretty and, you know, dainty, all this red skin and everything. And she's just like coming out, and then she embraces him. And I'm just like, oh. But it's so funny how as we said, it sets up so many plot lines for the future of this series. Like, because at first, I mean, you think, oh, this is just him dreaming about this alien princess, but then it comes down to it that he was reading this book, and it makes him, I guess it was him just dreaming about him reading the book and everything that of his imagination. And that book is A Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice. And I feel like for him to be dreaming about that and then have that, I'm trying not to talk about it because it's not saying spoilers, but it's like the future of the episodes of him having this relationship with this person. But for him to be thinking about that person in this state of mind of this dream is just, it's a plot, and it gives you, it makes you intrigued about, well, how does he know her and why is he dreaming about her as a princess of Mars? Like, it just makes you just really think about, the possibilities of this show. But yeah, this is a great opening scene, like very sci-fi, very space, very, it was like a dream. I saw somebody point out that it went from black and white to color. And as I watched it over last night, that was really, really kind of cool how it started off as black and white. And then it went into this color. And I felt also that I felt like the music, like when it went from black and white to color, I felt like it kind of changed a little bit. It's very cool how they're really bringing this story to life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, it really was a perfect setup, and it kind of reminded me of, how the old B movies open up, just with all this, great action and promise of something, bigger. And we definitely get that. But what I really love about that whole thing was that as soon as our main character wakes up, it's a perfect contrasting element, because we see him in 1950s America, where the colors only section in the bus. And you automatically know, what's in store because of, all of the, horrible, stories and images and videos that we've seen, from those times. And when the bus stops, and our two people of color have to get off the bus and they have to walk while everyone else, gets to get on a truck and go. Like, it's just a perfect setup for what we're about to get into.
It was like his dream, but his reality as well, because when he woke up, that was his reality.
Right.
And to touch on the whole bus breaking down scene, like, I was shook because seeing him right there reading that book, and then him seeing this guy pull up on this truck, and then they start helping these white folks, and I'm just like, oh, junk, like they not about to get on this back of this truck with them, like they're about to walk, and then the next scene you see them walking, and I'm just like, wow, it was really that real back in the day that you see him on this segregated bus. You see him and this lady back in the back. You see all the white folks in the front. So it's just like, wow, this was his reality. This was his world. This is not a dream. This is what he was living. Since they were talking about them walking, I mean, the lady, he was basically telling the lady, I'm heading back to, Chicago. My dad sent me this odd letter about, him and everything like that. And then she also questions him about the book that he was reading. And it's kind of crazy because he was excited to tell her that he was reading A Princess from Mars, like, because he is a bookworm. That is something that we get to see. One of his personalities, that's something that we get to see that he enjoy. He enjoy reading books. As you can see from his imagination, from his dream, he's read a ton of books. So, his imagination is really, really big, and maybe books is his escape from his reality. I mean, from starting off this first episode and these first 10 minutes of the episode, that's what I think. I think that he reads a lot to escape the world that he's living in and what he's doing. As you can see, that he's a soldier. So prior to now, we don't know what he's been through as a soldier. So he uses a lot of books to, have a little moment for himself and, escape reality.
Right. And it's a perfect, culmination of, what we're being promised. As soon as you have that whole introduction, it's giving us exactly what, the trailers and summary, has already stated, is that we're dealing with a era where Black people are extremely oppressed, and we get monsters. And I remember watching that, still being kind of confused. I was intrigued, but I was like, okay, so if that was a dream, does that mean he's going to be going back and forth in dreams? What is really going on? And, as we're going to go deeper in the episode, we see that that's completely different.
Right.
But, the setup with him receiving a letter from his father, like that alone kind of piqued my interest, because, you already, have this, basically, let's just call it what it is, this, topic of Black men and their fathers, especially during that era, being, very staunch, being very, kind of shaky, because, as we see, he's a soldier, who was in the war, and it, as we, dive deeper, we're going to see, what's his his mentality like. But,
right.
Just kind of seeing, him being this, very talkative, bookwormish kind of guy, we automatically know, well, this is our leading man. And whatever he's about to get into, it's going to be something for the books. And
right. I feel like you can already tell that he's passionate about whatever his character development is, even though he doesn't know what his character development is. Right. But you can tell that he's passionate for whatever is in front of him, because he's on a mission. And I mean, I feel like when he was a soldier, he had missions to complete. So I feel like this is just another mission for him. All right, so let's just go ahead and move on to the next two people that we get to be introduced to, and that is George and Hippolyta Freeman, which we see a scene where they're talking about them assembling a traveling guide for Black Americans, which is in reality the Green Book that was used for Black travelers for 30 years. We're introduced to these characters. Yes, they're laying in the bed, and, it's morning, and, they're having their conversations and everything. But what I get from them is that these are two loving individuals already. You can tell that they care for one another, and you can tell already that there's some type of, how can I say this without being like talking about future episodes? It's like, there's already this feel of something is in the air that has not been cleared. And, when he said, I think for me, when he said that I've never got to make love to you in a day of light, it's just like, that makes me think that they work all the time. He's always traveling. She's always traveling. So I don't feel like they actually get to enjoy their company as husband and wife, and actually yes, they love each other, but like dating or things like that, I don't feel like they've had the opportunity to truly, focus on themselves. They've been focused on taking care of everybody else around them. How did you feel about meeting them for the first time?
I think it was, you see a very passionate, Black couple that is, essentially middle age, which you don't see a lot in media nowadays, to this extent, showing how passionate they are for each other, and picking up kind of where you were talking about how George was, saying he never made love to her during the day, just getting all of that just from one line, that shows how powerful, you get these lines that basically open the floodgates to, the entire characters, backstory, like you really did hit the hammer on the head when you said they're, these two, they don't see each other often. You can tell just by the way they interact with each other. And, you really know that there's love there, but there is some tension, and that's still reflective of the 50s.
Because I mean, they're going through a lot of things in that time period. I mean, it is Jim Crow America right now.
Right.
So, and then with them risking their lives to make this traveler books for their brothers and sisters to be able to be safe when they can travel, They're risking their lives at the end of the day, and they don't know if they're gonna see each other. They don't know if they're gonna be able to tell each other they love them. So there's a lot with that just to unpack with them. So, but I love them together. They are amazing, and just seeing where they're going is amazing as well.
Yeah, they truly are a loving couple who run a decent household. And that goes kind of, we can segue into their daughter, Dee. That like I think it's hilarious. The first thing you see, other than her, using her artistic skills,
right?
She hears her parents making love. She's like, gross.
Right. It's like, it's real. Like, it's like you see a child that's like, okay, not this happening. This is really happening. Okay, gross. The fact that you said her artistic skills, like, and I wonder if I said it yet in my notes. I did not say it yet, but like, she is very artistic. Like, she really has a skill. And even with us seeing her draw this space character and, this you can see that she's creative. You can see that she uses her brain a lot. You can see that she's very open when it comes to creativity. So that was one thing that just piqued my interest with her, is to see what else would she do with her creativity.
Right. And I definitely think as the series goes further, they'll explore that. But, just seeing, this little black girl, time doing something completely out of the ordinary, because they could have easily had her character, be outside, jumping rope or something. But they had her, basically being a homebody. And, and it also shows that, like we were saying earlier, it also shows, the characters between that whole dynamic. This is a very intelligent family.
Right.
They're very book smart. Very book smart. And I
thought about that mama being intelligent. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because her mama, oh man, intelligent. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a family of geniuses, and
it is a family of geniuses. And then we have Atrocitus coming in, scaring Dee on that little part. But I mean, it was like a shock of, oh my God, he's here. Like, he hasn't been here in a long time. So to see the family love that they have when they welcome Tick back to Chicago in their home, you can tell that this is a black family that loves each other. You can tell that they've either been through some things, and with him going to the army and being a soldier, I feel like you can tell that he's been gone for a minute. Right. For them to have that reaction of him being back home. So to see that they care for him and that they love him and that he's back, I felt like that was like another ace in the hole for me, to see that this black family is happy and, showing compassion and showing love for one of their loved ones coming back home.
Right. Because they could have easily had it where he comes back and, it's very sullen and it's like, oh my gosh, you came back from the war. I really love how, it's just very reflective, to have, just this black family just being so positive and intelligent and just, being very into each other.
Yes.
I think the contrasting part comes in when he, when Tick brings up that the letter from his father, his mother, and I think just the reaction that George alone has. George, who's this like super positive character, kind of being like, "Are you sure you want to bring this up?" That also already kind of got my ears perked up to be like, okay, something's up, something's not right. And I think, that also speaks about the whole series, the sense of dread, because you kind of hear like some chords, when he brings up the letter, and it shows that, Tick and, George, even though they have, a really great relationship, there's still this unease that, there's something, below the surface with Tick that we're just, we haven't seen yet.
Right. Like I feel like it's just off gate. You can just feel like, okay, what is the underlying secret? Like,
Right.
what's the tea? What's going on? Like, you know, but I think what I like about Uncle George and Tix's companionship already is that you can tell that his uncle cares for his nephew, and you can tell that the nephew cares for his uncle, because it's like, soon as Tix said, you know, I got this letter, and, you know, George was just like, you know, like you said, do you really want to get into this? Do you really want to, you know, do you really want to take it there? Do you want to really open up this? And Tix is basically just like, yeah, like, I want to know, I want answers. Like, if my dad is telling me that, you know, I have a secret birthright, then let me know what my birthright is. That means obviously something that I don't know that I need to know about myself. So, you know, and the fact that his uncle is right there 100% behind him, you know, maybe hesitant, but is 100% behind him for Tick and wants to help him, you know, figure out what his dad is, you know, saying this birthright is. So.
And I thought the birthright was going to be like some land or something, you know.
Not some land.
Slave, you know, because slavery, you know, being abolished, I thought like his family owned some land or something.
Some land.
No,
it ain't even like that. Oh man, I can't wait to get into that. Let's keep it moving. Tick also, like, from the letter, Tick does refer to this place called Lovecraft Country, which he believes is in Arkham, Massachusetts. But fun fact, Arkham House comes from the publishing company that wrote a lot of, that published a lot of H.P. Lovecraft short stories. So that was a kind of little cool Easter egg. There's a lot of Easter eggs that I've seen and read about throughout this whole series that we might get to touch on one episode where we just talk about all the Easter eggs that we've seen in the series, which would be kind of cool because there are a lot. I mean, for another one, the Green Book, the real Green Book that was made for travelers for 30 years, that's an Easter egg. So, you know, to find these little things about, you know, that's in this show that's a little bit right here, a little bit right here, like another one. We'll say one more. This is my last one. War of the Worlds is in the opening scene of this episode. Like, the aliens and how they are robots, and they're like the ones that are like walking like robots and they have legs. That comes from War of the Worlds. So I think that was kind of cool. I saw that and I read about that. So there's a lot of Easter eggs that are in this whole entire episode and for episodes to come. So maybe one day me and Abel will break them down for you, because I'm totally interested in what I've been reading about and seeing these little cool things. And actually someone referenced to pop culture, someone referenced to things that happened years ago. But it's so cool that Misha and her team put all of these little, you know, Easter eggs in there. I'm an Easter egg fan from watching Marvel and DC movies. So the fact that I have another way to break down some Easter eggs, this is going to be exciting. So look out for that episode where we just talk about Easter eggs. But continuing on to our story, George corrects him and says Ardham, after decoding Montrose's letter that he wrote to Tick. So he figures out that this is another place that, you know, is where this birthright might be. So how are you feeling about George decoding?
That was a good little twist. I really thought they were going to be going, you know, to find this Arkham, and I thought it was going to be like some big grand epic journey with a nephew and his uncle, and you know, I thought it was
journey though. Don't short it. Don't sell it short, because it was a journey.
I thought it was going to be something different. I just say that I thought it was going to be very different, but
right,
you know, that was a good little twist where he was like, no, you know, he, you know, brought up the light and he corrected him, and that really did set off the bells and whistles for me right then. Is that something isn't right? You know, right. And then I started, you know, doubting if that was even from his father. And, you know, that's when I start getting those kind of thoughts with a show, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. What's about to happen?
Right. I was intrigued, like, I hate to say it, but I was intrigued, like you said, into the series, there was just so much already happening. And then as the episode went on, stuff just kept happening and kept happening. And as episodes go on, stuff just keep happening. So, like, this is top tier show. I'm sorry. It is a top tier show. Get into it. You'll love it. I promise you. Like, take your time, but it really is a top tier show. As we continue, we get to the block party where we are introduced to Letitia, Letty, Lewis, and her older sister, Ruby. They sing together, but you can feel, and I wrote this in the notes, you can feel it's a little tension because, you know, when Ruby stopped singing her first song and, you know, Letty was like, whole lot of shaking. And Ruby looked at her like, girl, like, what you doing here? Like, and I'm like, okay, like, you can already tell that there was some tension. And I'm like, okay, what's the tea? Like, why y'all beefing? What's going on? Like, your sister came back. She said a whole lot of shaking. Let's see a whole lot of shaking. Let's hear you sing. But, you know, Lady came on up there and, you know, they said whatever their little words or whatever, but, you know, they started singing. And what I did like about that is that the fact that these are two Black women that can sing. Like, I've seen behind the scenes of them practicing and dancing and everything. And I'm sorry, I got to talk about it. Birds of Prey, we got to see Miss Journey sing as Miss Black Canary, and she sung This Is a Man's World. So, like, we already knew she could sing, but the fact that she started singing with her sister, I was like, okay, like, I'm getting Journey. Like, this is it. Like, okay, I'm in it. Let's go. Like, I was excited. I was happy because when I first saw the trailer and I saw Journey, I was like, okay, I'm shook. Like, I'm ready. I already... First half of the year, I already been hype about her for her doing Black Canary and everything in Birds of Prey. But now I get to see you in something that I love, supernatural and horror. And then it's like, you know, this type of horror and this type of genre. I'm like, okay. But at the same time, it's got a little, you know, fun, a little lighthearted at it. For this scene, you get to see these two sisters do something that they love and that sing together. Like she said, we haven't sang since it's been church. And, you know, like, that's cool because you know that they grew up in the church. You're getting a little bit of tidbits about them growing up and everything like that. But to see them actually sing a whole lot of shaking, it was cute. I loved it. I was here for it. I don't want to talk about the next scene because when they get off that stage, that's when they got real. So I'm going to let you talk about them. How did you feel about them singing?
Ooh, okay, about the singing, I loved Ruby's introduction. You know, her pulling out that Rosetta Thorpe guitar, like like that you know, they really pay attention to their they did their homework.
Yeah,
great job, Misha. But when Letty pops up and, like you said, when she, you know, gives Ruby a whole lot of shaking and Ruby just like, what are you even doing here? You know, that kind of let me know, like you said, there was tension. But it also speaks on, you know, the whole dynamic between these two, you know, sisters. It's like, even though they may have issues and they may disagree, they will still, you know, come together, you know, even if it's on stage, you know, and singing, but like they still come together and, you know, they essentially do what they think is right. But you know, I love when they sang. Like you said, I was here when, you know, I'm here for Journey. Anytime she drops a hit, come on, Journey, drop a whole album.
People come on, Journey, bless us with an album. Oh my God,
give it to the people. Like, we will be the stands can be your canaries. I promise.
Okay, perfect. We will stand.
But yeah, I loved it. I love that whole, you know, setup and kind of having, you know, it's just very free, very fun, and, you know, having a block party. You know, that's, like you said, I think that was the last inkling right before anything you thought this series would be is completely just thrown out the window. Because, you know, it's just, you know, you get a very, you know, I think up until this point, it's just a very, you know, calm, grounded series about this, you know, Black man trying to find his father, meets his uncle and aunt and his, you know, cousin. And there's, you know, a couple of women, who sing, and one who's a photographer, and there could be some tension and some drama, but
right.
the block party and everybody's happy, and there could be some racial issues because Jim Crow
It's
era.
a soap opera.
Yeah, it just goes like for our soap opera people. If you remember Passions, it's
don't you start talking about Passions? Cut it out. Oh, you said this strong black man. I got to talk about him real quick because while we're at the black party and listen to the girls sing A Whole Lot of Shaking, we see him previously in this scene beforehand. You saw the police shut down the fire hydrant for the kids, and they were playing and everything. I mean, it's a hot summer day. Let them kids have some water. But you see that white officer shut them down and not be able to have fun and everything like that. But we see this strong black man, Tig, hey, it's the block party. He goes out, he looks at it. He has that flash of, what happened. He goes out, boom, breaks it open. Water is out. It just adds more element to the not to the black party, to the block party. It adds more element to it. And you can see, everybody just having fun. And it's just this nice Friday night or whatever, Saturday night. And it's just this good time, just listening to this live music and just having a great time and, carefree and everything. I thought that was a nice little, tidbit of Tig as the main character. I felt like that was more of, like a little bit of him stepping into his character development because, he's fighting for everybody and he's fighting for his people. Absolutely. So I felt like that was a good little piece of him to see, him have that moment and have that water be back out for everybody to enjoy. Back to these sisters, because child, when they got off the stage, like Ruby, I just gotta say it one time. Ruby said, she said, I think what it for me was that she was like 2 nights. Like you can only stay 2 nights. And I thought that was so funny to me because it's like, girl, why are you so pressed about her for staying for 2 nights? Like, I get that you mad or whatever that it is that the case. Yes, I get it. She did not come to your mom, y'all's mom's funeral. Right. But did you ask your sister, was she okay? Did you ask her, was she grieving? Did you ask her anything before you? I get it. Like, I totally get the situation. But for me, it's like, I guess I'm already on Letty's side because I feel like, girl, I just got back and you already ready to cuss me out about some stuff. And I'm just trying to have, a good night with you. But then, like Ruby says, would you back here for some money? So is this something that Letty does all the time? But it's just soon as they got off that stage, it's like Letty was trying to keep it cute. But when, Ruby got into her, it was like the tension was just there. And, whatever unresolved issues, which is, I guess, Letty not going to the funeral of their mother. But you can just feel that tension off. And it's just, like I said, 2 nights, Letty. You have 2 nights. How was you feeling, man?
She was not having whatever Letty was selling. She was not buying, and that is actually really it's hilarious how she automatically knew Letty needed something. Mm-hmm. Like she knows her sister, but she just like, I don't want to fool with you. You got 2 nights. Leave me alone after that. And like I said, that tension that's there, it's very unfortunate for Letty, but it's good drama for us. But it also, it's very realistic because, we know a lot of people who have, family who are just like, I don't fool with them. I don't want to get with them. They tackled that very realistically and very well. And I appreciate how, it was still kind of lighthearted because, the whole block party scenario, but the tension, and Letty was just like, she down on her luck. She really needed to, recuperate. But I also think it was really hilarious, like when she looked over and saw Tick, and she's like, "That's little, that's Tick.
That's little Tick."
Right? Like that was funny. That was funny.
She said, "Oh," and then he had his shirt off, so she was hooked already, mesmerized, starstruck. She was like, "That's Tick with the glasses." Oh, that's Tick. No, stop. But nah, she was hooked already, and it's just crazy because then you get to see this development of these two characters happen, because she has her eyes on him, and I think he did look at her. I can't remember, but to see that be the beginning of their character development as the two of them. So, that's exciting to see, because I mean, she's a beautiful Black woman and he's this beautiful Black man with no shirt on. I'm sorry. But it's just funny to see that she was already like, that's tit, and he ain't got no shirt on. Like, girl, I know your tea. It was funny though. It was really good to see. But yeah, I think we're good with the block party. I think next we can talk about the next day. We see Tick looking through these drawing, which includes symbols of the KK meetings and a safe havens for Black travelers. And it also, which brought in the thought to my mind is also as well, is that does it make us wonder? Dee knows more than what she's told. Let's talk about it. Like, and I think you had already said this, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it. Like, no shade, is she a prophet? Because we talked about this, and we can go ahead and just talk about it. But like, no shade, is she a prophet? Because like, if she's already drawing stuff like that, what are you dreaming about? What are you reading? It goes back and playing with her creativity. Like, what are you reading? Have you been reading your daddy George's book? Like, have you been, tapping into H.P. Lovecraft? No shade. Like, have you been exposed to this world that you don't know nothing about, but exposed to the world and the reality of what you're living in right now? So it just makes me think. And then you see your dad doing this Safe Travelers book. So are you making this map that's for safe, that can show out like, well, hold on, let me get it right. Are you making this map that's almost like a safe travel map?
Right.
So, it makes me feel like she knows more than what she's told. Like, she's very creative, that she's very curious about the world that she's living in right now. And
maybe later that will get her into trouble.
Oh, D, love D. But great. Yeah. So I guess we can get into the whole trio: George, Tick, and Letty, all banding up together to hit the road and go to Artem together and figure out what is this secret birthright like. But, as they're traveling, they're going through this Jim Crow America. They're being looked at. They're being persecuted. Like, to get into we're going deeper into the actual name of the episode, Sundown Town. They go through a sundown town. Like, this is where stuff, I feel like this is the second half of the episode where stuff really gets real. I don't have it in our notes. I hope you have it, where they're driving and they're listening to this speech. And it's basically like the speech is like the speech is happening in the future, but it's actually talking about what's happening now to them.
I did not get the name of that speech. Because I was actually meant to make a note of that.
Right.
I think it was, I believe it was James Baldwin. I'm not sure.
I think that's what it is. I didn't want to be wrong, but I think that's what it was. Right. It was James Baldwin. And it just went hand in hand for what they was traveling through to when James Baldwin made that speech. It was like, I guess, in the future of that time period, because that was the 1950s. But he said that maybe years later. So this goes, I think what the point I'm trying to make is that the fact that Misha and her crew are really taking narratives like that and making it for the present time in the show. And it makes me go and look and research about it and figure out, how did this go hand in hand? And, what does it mean for the show, or what does it mean for us as a people now? So I say kudos to them, because, I mean, yeah, I should have knew who James Baldwin was, but the fact that I had to go back and figure out who he was and, listen to that speech, I feel like I said, like in the intro episodes, the show is educational for people. It sparks conversations. It keeps us on our toes. Everybody, it keeps everybody on their toes. But yeah,
I think it also just kind of, and I guess this could also segue into the scenes that kind of come in right after immediately, is that the level, the degree of racism that this whole setup shows, it's very similar. This kind of goes into what I was saying, in our opening, introduction episodes, is that this kind of goes further, than what, a lot of other films and television shows have gone into in terms of racism, because beforehand, you've gotten like the ugly looks, you've got the N-word thrown at them, but the brutality, it's mostly off screen unless, it's slavery. But here, you hear like all the whispers, and, when they get into the diner, you get this, like, I already knew something was up when Uncle George was like, I'm looking for this particular diner. I know it's around here, but this will do. Like, why is, that should already be a question. I thought it was like some magic or something, but
that would like it was like almost like a glamour.
Like, that's what I was thinking was going on. But when they walked in there and you see this guy, just kind of look over, and you have the server look at them crazy, and Uncle Joe's like, I don't care.
Right, we're gonna still eat.
That. Right.
Uncle George was like, I'm still gonna eat, and we gonna have this food, and if they gonna serve us, they don't. But plot twist, like, you see Uncle George and you see Tick talking about the establishment, the diner that they're in, but you also see Letty in the back. I think she was trying to find a restroom or trying to find a bathroom, and then you see her walk up on the server. He can't see her, but she sees him, and he's on the phone, basically saying that, hey, it's some unwanted people in this place. What do I need to do? Blah, blah, blah. And it pans back to Tick and his uncle. And he was talking about, he asked me, he said, why did they build the White House white? And Uncle George proceeded to say and everything. And then it's just crazy because hand in hand how that scene was, where he was like, because they burnt it up, and like Tick pulls back the floorboard, and you can see that it was burnt. And then here comes Latia. We have to get your ass up out of here, because we got to get the fuck out of here. Like, that was like a perfect, like, it's the way she was running, and it was the way she, like, her heels and everything just clicking and clacking and everything. And she's like, no, we got to get up out of here. And I'm just like, oh, like, I was laughing at her just because, like, the scene itself, like, but them getting out of there and then being chased by these crazy firemen, and like, that scene was crazy. The car chase was crazy, because like, that's the first time when we actually get some action in this episode.
Yeah, I think that it kind of gives us what we were promised.
Exactly. Like, it was like that. It was the excellent build up to that, from them running out of there to that happening, that car chase. And then, everything else that happens with that car chase, Miss good old Christina. Can't wait to talk about her. But it was just, all the elements in that particular scene were there and were amazing. I mean, these black people being in this diner, being chased out this diner, then being chased out this county. Like, it was crazy.
Right, to a whole different county too. Like that, I think that is, it's so, you know that the series, is built around, mostly these three characters, and you're like, they're going to make it, but the action, is just so intense. And then, like you said, when Christina, Miss Blue Eyes, when she pops up, and the thing is, we see her, her very, her incredibly silver vehicle. We see it earlier, kind of following Tick when Tick goes to ask, I forgot the man's name, but at the bar when he.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You see her car,
You
you see her car, and then
do.
seeing it again, and then her, coming outside and looking straight at Tick, like that already lets you know there's something, that's not being
Mysterious.
talked about. And then kind of going right, diving right into what happens after is that, they pull over, to basically, pee break and to have this police officer come up. And that just, I already knew what was coming, because you've
Right.
seen kind of things, happen a billion times. You've heard the stories. You know this is even reflective of what's happening now. But
Right.
when he said, "Oh, you've heard of sundown towns? This is a sundown county." I was like, "Oh,
Right.
whoa,
In
they're
trouble.
about to go there." And telling him that he has, they have until sundown to get out of there, and knowing they have to drive a particular speed, they can't go over the speed limit because
Right.
if they do, they'll get pulled over. And that whole scene, I think that scene was the scariest thing from this episode because it's so realistic, and the tension, just the music, like the way the build up, that just, it's so slow.
Right.
And it just, you feel like they're going to make it, but if they don't, something awful is going to happen. And,
I think for me with that part was that, like you said, they couldn't go over the speed limit. Like,
right.
And it was like the cop was behind them and they were going slow, but to see them, almost saying that they wasn't breathing, like they would, like they like was trying to hold their breaths because they was like trying to get out this county. And like that was a scary scene because you didn't know if they were going to make it out or not. But when they get across that line, it's like a whole another set
Right.
of police officers waiting for them. And
that's so messed up. That
yeah.
was, that's when I knew that. I think that was the moment when, because me and my dad were watching, he turned around. He's like, "Okay, now I need to see what happens." Whoa! Like it just, when you have, them basically they were being set up, and that's why they had to drive so slow because
Right.
all of these police from the county in the next county, they're waiting for them, and then taking them out to the woods to, basically, either I'm sure they were going to lynch them. But the way they had their guns, like that was incredibly terrifying, just how realistic that is. Because I know just from having some grandparents who, grew up, way before that era, just hearing these things like that, that's terrifying for anybody, just to have these police, use their authority. And then, and I think you caught it when they said, these guys, these three are probably going to say, if we asked them if they committed this crime, if they robbed this store, they're going to say no. They already had a whole story set up for how they were going to lynch them.
Right.
They were ready, to commit, a heinous act. But then, we get a noise. And we suddenly see, I don't know if these, like, I don't know what they're supposed to be. Somebody, I think I read somebody said a Wendigo, like they're like a mole monster with multiple eyes, like this. They come out the woodwork, and that's pure Lovecraft. I think at that point, I said this before, but anything and everything you thought the series was going to be, throw it out the window because
it turns into a whole nother thing when the monsters come out. But we're gonna have to put a pin on the monsters. And we good? So let's get into the monsters. Like, wait, they get into these woods, and the cops takes them in there, talking all their junk, and got them on the ground and everything. And like Aaron said, there's this noise. That's a rustle in the woods. And then you see them look, and then you see another rustles in the wood, and you see this creature with all these eyes, all on his back, this big old mouth, all these teeth, this long tongue. And then what do you see? Him take a chunk off that main police officer arm.
Yeah.
And Like you said, whatever you know about this series, throw it out the window, because when it got to this part, I was like, okay, I see what you mean by bringing in the supernatural horror of Lovecraft. Okay, I get it. And now we have a horror series at the moment. Everybody is scared. Everybody is running. There's blood all on Tick and Latia already. Like, they are covered in blood. They're running. And then they run into this abandoned house, and they're all trying to figure out what we should do. Like, what is going on? What is happening? Did you see that? Like, where's Uncle George? Like, all these things are happening at this point. Yeah, Uncle George was limping, girl. Like, I hate that he got left behind, but then he caught up. But it was kind of cool to see him. Not kind of cool to see him left behind, but to see him navigate through the woods to the abandoned house that they were in and everything, because you got to see everybody basically split off, and that's what happens in a horror movie. Everybody splits off and everything. I think one particular thing that happened in that scene when they were in the house was that the officer that was bit basically was, because he was bit, he turned into one of those things, and that was always I was always curious about that, because it made me think. Like, I instantly was like, when he got bit and I saw him like starting to swell up and stuff like that, I was like, oh, he's about to turn into one of these things. And that was just weird and crazy, but that's Lovecraft. So that was just that whole nother genre of this horror series, taking it to another level. I mean, it's not like a vampire biting you and turning you into a vampire. No, the monster bit this man, and now this man is turning into a monster. How was you feeling about that whole them being in an abandoned house and everything?
I mean, that definitely committed to the whole, horror element. And I think when Uncle George came in and he said, listen, children of the night, that's a straight quote from Dracula. Like, they were definitely playing up that whole, cabin in the woods kind of.
Yes, cabin in the woods.
But when they found out that these monsters were sensitive to light, and Letty needed to go get the light, basically, when she did that run, oh my gosh, that was perfect. And then when they got the flashes, like that, I think you said it before, it was giving very much Jurassic Park.
It was amazing. Like you said, when she was running for her life. Yeah, like, that's how you run.
Right. In a horror.
But them seeing them when she got the light and seeing them with this flare, and they're all standing around, and they're like, preparing themselves for battle against these unknown monsters that they know about. There's this whistle. We hear this whistle, and they like stop, look around, and then they disperse and they run into the woods. Tick and Letty covered in blood. Like, the way that whole scene went from, high level stress to low level stress, like, everything is going to be okay for now. Like, that was crazy. But the way that episode ends is them walking up to this big mansion, finally in Artham, and hopefully we get to find out what Tick's his birthright is and everything. They're all covered in blood. It is the next day. It's sunny. It's the morning. And they walk up to this big, creepy but beautiful mansion. That house was creepy, but it was beautiful. I'm sorry. Like, they walk up, open the door, and this guy, almost like a knight in shining armor, welcome home. Like, how you know me? Like, so I was thinking, like, how do you know this man already? But then it automatically gives me like, oh, he's supposed to be here. Like, the way they ended it off, like, he's where he's supposed to be at.
Yeah, it was a perfect first episode. Just a great.
Oh my god! Like,
it was perfect, and it's set up so well for what's to come, because like I said, like you were saying, you have this guy who looks like a knight in shining armor, blonde hair, blue-eyed white guy, man, like he's one of them, and you're just like, what is about to happen? It's completely night and day, in the series, and that's the beauty of this thing.
Yeah, it really is a beautiful show. Like, just closing more remarks, like, this first episode was It was phenomenal. Like I stand this show like, and I've seen the comments, I've seen the negativity about it, and I've seen it's some issues that, we will address because I mean, we had to look at it and, figure out like, that is right is right, wrong is wrong, but we'll get into that later. But, this show is, I'm sorry, but it's top tier. Like you getting sci-fi, you getting action, you getting soap opera drama, black family, even with the other characters of the wife, like you getting all different types of drama, and it's amazing. I'm sorry, like I'm shook still to this day. I'm shook to the episode right now. I probably want, like, once you hear this episode, the series is done, and I know the series, the finale is just gonna be top tier because of the preview that we saw. But it's just watching episode 1 3 times I have. Like, this show is really, really phenomenal. Like, big props to Misha and her crew, HBO Max, for giving her the opportunity, as well as, Jordan Peele and JJ. Like, Matt, like, I'm so happy that Matt had the opportunity of his book that he wrote and made it in this narrative to be, brought to life. And he wrote it as a series, but they still continue to write it. So the fact that it is now out and it is now, here, it's great. Like, I'm like I said, I can talk more and more about the first episode, but you will hear my love for the series as I get to talk about episodes 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so on, because
good.
The love I have for this show, it grows with each episode because there's so much stuff that happens that I, as somebody who wants to create horror and supernatural and sci-fi, I am inspired by. It gives me hope as a Black creator that I can do these things. And I know Aaron feels the same way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, it just, you basically took the words right out of my mouth. It gives me a lot of inspiration, and hope, that more Black creatives can come out and do, these types of things. Cause, this isn't just a grounded, story like, a lot of people want to tell. This isn't even, your regular kind of horror with, a ghost or a monster here. Like, this is top tier, horror, monster, ghost, everything in between. Like, it's such a great show, and it better win an Emmy.
I can't wait till the Emmy nominations come out. Like I said, by the time y'all hear this episode, the season is over. But this show deserves all the awards, all the flowers, everything. So, but we hope you have enjoyed our first episode of To Lovecraft and Back. Like I said, this was the breakdown of Sundown Town, episode 1 of Lovecraft the series on HBO Max. We welcome all new people to the show, people who have watched the show. We welcome you to encourage you to listen to us as we break down this whole entire series, the book, and more. And I am Michael, one of your hosts. You can find me on Twitter at _oddgeek. And Mr. Aaron, can you let the people know where they can find you?
I am Aaron Michael Johnson, and you can find me at Twitter you find me on Twitter at Aaron Michael _J. Hopefully, because Twitter's just being Twitter. Got my contact, but it is what it is.
Back,
maybe
he's back. We'll see. Awesome. Come through. Right. Awesome sauce. Well, we hope you enjoyed tonight's episode, and we will see you again soon. Thank you so much for tuning in to us.
Thank you. Happy Halloween, guys.
Oh, yeah. Happy Halloween.